What's up, everybody? This is the Inspiration podcast, and today I have a great host named Marques Ogden. Marques is a keynote speaker. He's a podcast host. He's an entrepreneur, and he has a lot going on, and I'm excited to have him on. He's also a retired NFL lineman, so he has a lot of perspectives, and I think we can learn a lot from Marques. So first thing I would like to ask you, Marques, was what was it like playing for the NFL?
You know what, Ike? That's a great question, man. Thanks for asking. So playing in the NFL was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of up and down, a lot of pivoting. I went from, different teams, Jacksonville to Baltimore to Buffalo, finished up with the Titans in Nashville. It was a phenomenal experience. Got to play with some great players like Fred Taylor, my brother Jonathan Ogden, Ray Lewis. Up for the Hall of Fame this year from the Ravens is Terrell Suggs, former teammate, great football player, great outside linebacker, great DA, just a great guy overall. So, yeah, man, I mean, the NFL was great. But like anything else, right? Like anything you do, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of dedication. It's going to be a lot of sacrifice. It's going to be a lot of discipline. And I tell people, if you don't have the discipline, or you don't have the, ability to withstand hardship, you will not make it in the National Football League. It's not designed for you to stay there if you can't deal with or endure the hardships. So it's a lot of great opportunity, but it's a lot of grittiness and work that's involved as well.
Yeah, man, I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into it and sweat and equity, and you must have sacrificed a lot to get where you are as an NFL player at the time. I'm just curious, what were some of the sacrifices you had to make to get there?
You know what, man? Like in college, not going out as often as I would have liked. Training, going into my going to like the combine and my trainings at school at Howard, and that was important. Going to the Hula Bowl in Maui, playing against guys something like Miami, Florida State, Texas, Notre Dame, Rice, so on and so forth. That was a lot of work, a lot of dedication. And you have to just sometimes, man, as a young person, when you think you can do no wrong, you think that the world is going to always wait on you, you think that you're indestructible and you can't be hurt, or you can't deal with, you can just come back from anything, like, you can go out all night, party, drink, whatever, wake up the next morning, boom, back at it again. Well, I had to sacrifice a lot of that. I had to sacrifice a lot of things that were considered, quote unquote, fun things to do, to focus on things that were necessary to do, which was, the working out, finishing up school, preparing to go to an all-star game, coming back, getting ready for combine at my school, and testing, and getting the scouts to come and look at you, the O-line coaches, going to different, teams. So, I visited, the St. Louis Rams that were there at the time when I was coming out of college. I went to the San Francisco 49ers, went to, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars, went to, the Cincinnati Bengals, went to, the Indianapolis Colts. So it was a lot going on, and so I had to really make a lot of sacrifice, and I had to, travel and do a lot of things that a lot of people, when you're young, right, you don't really think about, that, because you're wanting to do a lot of the fun stuff. But unfortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I ended up doing the things that worked. So I was able to get myself in a position to be drafted into the National Football League.
Yeah. And I know you retired and you've been in the NFL for a few years. And so, based on all the work that you've done, you clearly had like a very entrenched identity in the NFL. And then you've later transitioned into a place in business where you're able to experience a lot of success as a business coach, as a podcast host, and as a best-selling author. And I'm curious, like, where did that identity shift come, and what was that transition like, from being an NFL player to what you're doing now? Because that's not something we see often.
So for me, when I left the National Football League, for about the first 6 months, it was really difficult. I had lost my father. Well, my brother and I had lost our father in 2006 unexpectedly. So 2008, I really didn't do well with losing my father, then losing the game of football in the NFL, the locker room, the guys, the camaraderie, the shooting shooting the stuff, in the locker room, and then competitive desire to be the best and go out and play against the best and do your best. So I struggled, man, for about 6 months. I mean, it was really hard. I got into a lot of painkillers like oxycodone, hydrocodone, Vicodin. I got into a lot of the other issues that I had of like gambling, nightlife, things like that. But finally, when I made the decision to adapt and pivot to something bigger, and when I thought was going to be better than football, which was construction, once I made that decision, I was all in. And I got in and I went in and I did exactly what I wanted to do, which was build something special. And we became the largest African-American owned subcontractor in the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland for 2 years. But unfortunately, as the company grew, my ego and my ability to always want to think I was right also grew. And as a result of that and a job going south where I spent about $3 million over budget, and the developer, the contractor, the city decided to deny my change order. Basically, that was, September, October 2012. December 23rd, 2012, 2 days before Christmas, I got a call from the bank, president, CEO. He and the vice president of the bank informed me they were going to be shutting down my lines of credit. I had $1 million line of credit with the bank. I had about a $500,000 equipment line with the bank. I had about a $100,000 credit card line with the bank. And December 23rd, 2012, they were letting me know right then and there that all lines of credit, all forms of capital I could access to grow my business was no longer available or valid. And shut off. And they were telling me at that time, coming the early part of 2013, they were going to be coming after any and all assets they could get back from me.
Jeez.
That. And so that was going to be my home, cars, anything that I owned that was either bank debt that I still was paying off, or anything that I personally owned because I personally guaranteed that line of credit. Well, all lines of credit to the bank, the $1 million line, the $500,000 line, the $100,000 line were all personally guaranteed to the bank. So they were coming after anything that was bank debt and not paid off, and also anything that I personally owned and they could get their hands on to liquidate and or sell to pay back the loan.
Jeez. So, bro, man, you said a lot, but I'm just thinking about, so you essentially owed hundreds of thousands of dollars to the bank. And
Millions. No, not
millions.
Millions. The thing about it, my $1 million line of credit completely tapped out. It was completely, leveraged. My $500,000 credit line, completely leveraged. My credit card line, completely leveraged. And don't forget, right? All of those creditors that I owed from my construction company. So when I got to Raleigh and I filed my bankruptcy, literally, okay, I saw my bankruptcy attorney in April of 2023.
Yes.
When I was buying, I bought my dream home May of 2023. In order to get that, I had to go to my bankruptcy attorney and get a docket to prove that my bankruptcy was finalized within the state of North Carolina. So I went and saw him in April 2023, and he said, Marques, still to this day, you have not the largest amount of money. I had a $5.5 million of debt that I owed, but I had the most creditors that they've ever seen on a docket, on a bankruptcy docket.
Oh, Lord.
I had 177 creditors that were that could have come after me personally to try to get their money back.
Dude, hearing you speak about all this, Marques, is like incredibly stressful. And I first of all, I have so many questions. First of all, I'm just curious, how the hell were you able to get so many creditors? Because, like, was it because you had an NFL career that? How did that?
The construction company, man, we were the largest. So think about it. So fuel, stone, equipment, canisters, lawyers, accountants, all kinds of stuff. And then think about this. Then personally, my home, which is all the cars that I own were each its own filing, right? So then I had the equipment that had to get filed. So I owed Bobcat, or I owed Carroll Fuel, or I owed Trend. I owed multiple fuel companies, because again, I was getting shut off by one fuel company. You go to another. I had multiple contractors I owed, because again, one shuts you off, try to find another one. Same thing with concrete. I mean, we were doing sidewalks and foundational work and all that. So you got to what? If you're running into trouble with one, go to another. So I was basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. So I had 177 different creditors within different types of industries. I had 177 creditors, and sometimes I would have 5 to 7 stone contractors I owed, or 3 to 5 concrete contractors that I was a concrete, manufacturer that I owed, or 2 to 3 different, heavy equipment manufacturers that I owed. So I mean, it was nonstop. But the crazy thing, when I got to Raleigh after losing everything, home, cars, money, everything, it cost me $3,300 to file my bankruptcy. That was 2013. I was so broke, so destitute, I could not pay that off right away. It took me almost 6 months. So I got here in April. So basically April, May, June, July, August. It was exactly 6 months. September that year, I was finally able to pay the full amount to the Brewer Law Firm, which was my bankruptcy attorney, to start the proceedings and open the case, to have all those creditors basically not able to come after me personally. So not only did I have the stress of losing everything when I got here to Raleigh, for another 6 months, it was just every day hoping and praying and just saying everything to God. Please don't let today be the day that the bank wants to sue me for what I owe them, or the fuel company is going to sue me for whatever I owe them. It was constantly, every single day, praying and little to no sleep, just until I had enough to pay the attorney. So all those open, creditors were not able to come after me and attach my past business failure to my personal dollars that I had at that time, which wasn't much. I was just sad because they did that, right? I mean, my bills and all those things would have been not paid, right? Because they would have gone ahead and basically garnished the bank account. But nobody, which was such a blessing, out of 177 creditors, right? Not one creditor tried to pursue me and getting dollars back once I left Baltimore in April 2013.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I can only imagine the level of stress you must have been going through, bro. Like, because not only is the finances out of control, you can't even afford the bankrupt attorney, and you couldn't, man. And then you must have also been questioning yourself and been like, yo, what has my life How the hell did I get here?
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
who am I? Like, how did I go from an NFL athlete
Yeah.
struggling to building over $20 million a year construction company
Yeah.
to bankrupt or trying to file bankruptcy, broke,
Yeah.
no home, no cars, nothing, no money. I got $400 to my name when I moved here. That
Yeah.
$400.
And so, and glory, God be the glory. Your situation has clearly changed, and you're in a far much better place than you are than before. And so, I'm just curious, man. What were the steps that you took to get yourself out of that like financial hellhole and just like gross situation, man?
So basically, I was working two different. I got a job at Merrill Lynch in Durham when I first got here. I got fired from that job 2 months later, all my fault. Went to a construction company the next day, got fired from that job 5 days later, so fired twice in the same week.
Yeah.
I ended up working as a custodian in downtown Raleigh on Glenwood Avenue for $8.25 an hour. And I finally hit rock bottom and realized that I was the one that made the mistakes. I was the one that did not rely on my attributes of discipline and hard work to stay at the top of the game in construction. And I had what I call my spoiled milk moment, where somebody's trash, rotten meat, nasty, protruding garbage got all over me. And that was my wake-up call. And once I realized I was the one that put me there after that rock bottom moment, because I tell everybody, when you hit rock bottom, the only place left to go is up. So we went up, started trying to speak in September 2013. Didn't get a paid job for 2.5 years, so I kept working as a football instructor, ran 7-on-7 camps, did personal group training, did a couple of small, jobs, odd-end jobs here or there. Got my first paid job April 2016. Got a little bit better. They got my second paid job with the Buffalo Bills in 2017. And then after that, in 2018, I got coached, got developed, learned the business of speaking, started to grow, and started having a lot of success. Things were going a lot better. Then in 2022, July, I had to file for divorce from my ex unexpectedly.
Wow.
And that was not easy. That was not planned. That was not good. And so I was stuck in the house with her from July until November 1st.
That's not fun.
Because at that time, so many people were divorcing or going
COVID.
She had a backlog from from July until October.
Yeah.
So I was in the house with her. Then finally, November 1st, 2022, I moved out of the house, which broke me down to a crappy, run-down, dilapidated, bug-infested apartment. I had to move into something that had 2 bedrooms and was fully furnished because I only had 2 weeks to get out. I had 50-50 custody with she at the time was 8 years old. My daughter's now almost 11. She's 10 and a half. And I needed somewhere to move that had space for her, and it was fully furnished. So I found a place. I did not like it. I hated it. My daughter hated it. It had no privacy. It was like 800, 900 square feet, and it was just tight. Everything was outdated. It was just run down. The neighborhood was very just not friendly, not engaging, not kind. And then my daughter said, "Hey, Daddy, nothing against you, but we're living in kind of a small place." And that hurt for her to hear. She had a townhouse with her mom, which basically that's what I paid for when all the work that I had done. I had a teacher. And my daughter's telling me that the place is small. And so for about 2.5 months, from November until mid-January 2023, I was in a really dark place, in a really broke down, dilapidated place. And that's only about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Literally, then finally, I got my act together in January of 2023, leaned into my attributes over my skills, the business that we had, different types of things we were doing for our clients, got my act together, got my head out of the sand, got myself out of the ashes, and then I bought my dream home about 4 months later, so I bought it in May of 2023. And since then, my friend, business has been really elevating. Speaking, coaching, consulting, our podcast, Get Authentic with Marques Ogden, in the top 0.5%, most popular worldwide. You know, we've been really fortunate to grow some really phenomenal clients and services, and we're about to launch a mindset community. You can go to Inner, INNER, Game, GAME, connection.com, Inner Game Connection. It's going to be a mindset community around bringing in great collaborators like, Bob Burke, who wrote the Go Giver series.
I love that book. Yeah.
Yep, Bob's a friend of mine, so he's coming to the community. I actually had him on my podcast on Thursday. Ian Lattimore, former heavyweight boxer. Devin Harris, who was the captain of the Jamaican bobsled team. So the movie Cool Runnings came out in the late 80s. It's based off his life. He's a world-renowned speaker. He's going to be in the group. I mean, all kinds of individuals. So it's a community built around mindset and connection and collaboration. It's a free community. If you want to have access to different content, it's always a small monthly fee, but to join the overall community is free. And so we're launching that here by the end of November, going to beginning of 2025. So again, my friend, things are going a lot better. Again, like I said, but I'm a guy that's been up, down, all around. But like I said, even 2.5 years ago, I am filing for divorce unexpectedly after having to deal with some stuff I wasn't prepared to deal with.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, man, I want to applaud you for your honesty and just for being very vulnerable. I think it takes a lot of strength to even admit all of this publicly, because oftentimes when you're on social media or you're on YouTube or whatever platform, people want to present themselves as the perfect being. But you just went straight raw and just told us everything that could have possibly went wrong, man. And I'm just so curious, man, because for me, I'm more interested in a person's failures than their success personally, because I feel like how they react to their fail stays a lot more than a person's success, in my opinion. Because I at the end of the day, bro, everyone's gonna have a bunch of fuck ups. Things are gonna happen, bro, and it's how you react to it that really determines the character of a man, in my opinion. And so I'm curious, man. You had you got fired multiple times. You worked as a custodian. You got divorced, and you just constantly went through endless situations that weren't ideal. And it sounded like to me, as you were speaking, a lot of it had to do with ego. Am I correct? And what role do you feel like your ego played in your downfall?
Oh, ego is everything in my downfall. Everything, because it made me believe I was better than I was. It didn't allow. So when you have a massive ego, you have no room for empathy and compassion as a leader. And as a result of that, it caused me to lose a lot of my best people, my best team members, my ability to help others and serve others. So without a doubt, my ego was the number one killer of my business and my life, because it cost me so many things, and it cost me decent relationships, people that work for me that were awesome. It cost me relationships with some of my clients that were good friends. It cost me relationships with some of my suppliers and my different, creditors that were good friends. So today I have no ego. I tell everybody, gratitude is the biggest crusher of ego. Yep. I'm constantly grateful that I have, a beautiful home that I bought, by myself. I bought over $500,000 home as an African-American male in the deep South.
Yes.
a non-W-2 ownership company.
Awesome,
I don't work
man.
for anybody. I work for myself. So to have a bank back you, finance you shortly after a divorce. I mean, my divorce wasn't when I bought my house, my divorce wasn't even final. I had to get a document signed by my ex that she would have no ownership or no interest in my house. But my divorce wasn't even final when I moved
Wow.
to the state. And where I live now, I'm as real as it gets. It's very affluent. There are very few Black families here. There's, I think there's about 200 homes, give or take.
Yeah.
I think there's about 3 or 4 African-American families. My next door neighbor is also from Mexico City. There's a pretty good amount of Indian families in the neighborhood. I've probably said between 10.
Where is this?
I'm in Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina. So I'm about half hour outside of Raleigh. But I'm in the Bible Belt. I mean, let's be clear about that. Like, I'm in the Bible Belt. The Bible Belt is awesome, but it's a lot of old school type of thinking, mentality in certain degrees. It's very, I say our state is somewhat a mix of red and blue, but I think for the most part, especially like in the country area, like where I live, it's a lot more red than blue. My opinion, it's what I believe.
Yeah.
And, to have it and get a home by yourself,
of course,
without anybody else, with not having a W-2 salary.
It's amazing, man.
Buying so we bought the house with my ex, right, together. It was like $325 with the house. We bought a really nice townhome, in 2021. Really, really nice. And it was a really nice place, nice area.
Yeah.
It was great. But this house I bought for $510. So
awesome,
that one was 2,200 square foot. This one's 3,100 square foot.
Wow.
And I say that because inspiration is all about giving people action steps that's built off of hope.
Yeah.
So if you listen to this podcast and you're struggling, having a hard time, going through a hard time, doesn't mean you can't get back on your feet.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that. It may mean you have to dig a little bit deeper, look a little bit, do a little bit more soul searching, go a little bit more leaning on your attributes. But daggone it, if I can do it, so can you. But you gotta dig in. Listen to this, everybody. Dig into who you are on the inside, not what you do on the outside.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You're really giving some game, man. And man, first of all, congratulations to your house, $510,000 in an affluent neighborhood where your daughter can probably live with you and really actually appreciate where she lives, man. I'm sure she loves it too. First of all, congratulations to you for that. Second of all, man, yeah, man. I mean, everything you said is really hitting me. And the thing that resonated with me the most that you said, man, is gratitude. Gratitude, I really feel like, is the best attitude, and that seemed to be the way out of your situation, man. Because I just would like for you to speak towards being led by the ego, man. Because I from time to time I see that a lot of people downfall seems to be the ego, and there's a quote that I think from the Bible that says that those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And so, you revealed that your ego got in your way. And what did you have to do to kind of realize, man, Marques isn't the shit. Oh, I own the largest subcontract company, but that doesn't really mean anything. What did you have to do to dissolve your ego so that you could put yourself in a position of gratitude and abundance living today?
I had to hit rock bottom, unfortunately. I had to be on that curb with my head in my hands, crying, realizing I'm no longer an NFL athlete. I'm no longer Caden Premier Enterprises CEO and successful businessman. I am Marques Ogden, broke, bankrupt, basically no home, renting a home, has sharing a car with his fiance, making very little money, scraping by, and working a second job for $8.25 an hour.
Wow.
Once I got that into my mainframe, things got better. But unfortunately, it took me to hit the most bottom point of my life to get to this point of owning it, to fix it. And once I owned it, and once I realized I was the one that needed to change and adapt and get more grit and get more tenacity, that's when things got better. But if you're listening to this, I don't care how bad things are. If you're at rock bottom and you're struggling to go up, let me tell you something. If you're there, you need to look in the mirror and see, how did you get there? Again, I got there because of my ego, my bravado, and just
Marques. Dude, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. One of the things about men is, unfortunately, like, we suffer in silence. I feel like a lot of men go through so much, but we don't have an outlet to speak on it. Sometimes as men, it doesn't feel comfortable to want to talk about these issues, and it can make us feel like, shit, am I the only one going through this crap? Am I going through this relationship arguing all the time? Am I the only one struggling to pay bills and all these problems, man? And to hear another man like you, especially a black male who has externally all the riches. You went to the NFL, you were the CEO of a business company, and you're speaking about your struggles so honestly. I think it's really going to help a lot of men to understand that no matter how hard rock bottom is, you can get out of it. So, you got out of that rock bottom, and can you provide the audience with like specific practical tips you did, like actual, like, like on a day-to-day basis that you did to like start to renew your mind and transform your habits?
So I'll say this: there's a saying, okay? To get yourself back on track. What's the biggest thing that knocks people down or bends or unfortunately breaks people's mindset and will? Challenges. Challenges. Hardship. I had a challenge today come through unexpectedly. Called my sister, then called one of my best friends. And the strategy for anybody listening to get themselves going, okay? Move your horizons, which means break down challenges into small action steps.
Sure.
Do this, you reduce stress and you keep momentum going.
Sure.
When you are hit with a challenge and or a hardship, if you're constantly just looking at the whole big picture, at the whole challenge, at the whole horrible situation, you get overwhelmed, you get stressed, you get anxious, you get worried. And what happens? Nothing happens. For example, we ended up having to have our podcast moved to another platform unexpectedly, and it broke all the chains on Apple to listen to us and Spotify, and it caused a major issue. That's a big challenge. First thing I did was call my production company, and we create a plan. We're going to get a new RSS feed. We're going to move that RSS feed to a new carrier with our network. We're going to contact your individual who set up your Apple, get her the RSS feed, have her upload it so we get Apple back online. It took almost 3 weeks, right? We finally called Spotify. Now we're back on. As of 3 days ago, we are 100% back where we need to be. 3 weeks ago, our world got rocked by a huge challenge because someone moved our podcast and didn't tell us, and we couldn't prepare to make the transition smoother, so we got hit and caught off guard. But if I hadn't broke down the challenge into small action steps by first things first calling my top guy, my production guy, Ben and Dennis, to get them on the same page to help me, I probably by now would have lost my Apple, which was almost close to 500,000 downloads,
Wow.
406 or 406 5-star ratings.
Wow.
130 of 135 written reviews, which would have crushed our global ranking. It would have been a cluster. But instead of saying, look at this whole big challenge, oh my God, my podcast has been moved. What do I do? I said, well, what do I do? First step, small action step, call Ben. Check.
Yes,
Next action step, create new RSS feed. Check. Next, take RSS feed, upload into their network. Check. Call my person. Ben. Check. Apple's back up. Took us a while for Spotify. Now we're back up. We're 100% back like we never even left.
Wow, man. And for those who don't know, Marques has a podcast called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. And as y'all can hear, he has a very booming successful podcast that has over 500,000 downloads and is continued to be engaging and inspiring to the audience. For those who have a podcast like me and are aspiring to grow their podcast, Marques, what would you say people can do to get a better podcast? Because your podcast is clearly booming and is successful. What do you think contributed to the success of the podcast?
Diversity in our guests. You want to have guests from all different backgrounds, races, ages, demographics. You want superstars, athletes, regular people, entrepreneurs, business leaders, everybody that takes that approach and is patient and does a great job of marketing to their target audience ends up doing well. But unfortunately, a lot of people get niched in their podcast, interviewing the same type of person in the same type of industry. Okay. And all you do is shut yourself off from others that have no interest in your industry. Yeah. And it could end up making it where your people that are wanting to listen say, there's somebody new and or exciting or innovative. I'm just going to pass this podcast on by.
Yeah. Because I have a YouTube channel and I've only been podcasting for a few months, but I think I'm on my 40th episode. And, and I'm working real hard to grow it, but it's been a challenge trying to grow it. And I feel like I need to do a better job engaging and marketing myself. And so how many podcasts did you do and how long did it take you to get to the point where you're at?
So we've produced over 500 episodes last 2.5 years. Wow. I'd say around episode 150 to 200, we started to get a really nice base. Right around that 18-month mark, we got a good base of people loving our podcast, our show, what we're about, and it's continuing to help us rise in that regard.
Yeah, man, it's good to hear, man. Thanks for sharing that because it always gives people like me hope because I've only been in it for a couple months, so I can't complain about where I am.
You'll be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep their guests and get people to rate and write a review for your show. That's huge. Get people to give you 5-star ratings and reviews. That's going to only help to increase the algorithm to get your podcast more global ranking and more exposure on platforms like Apple, Spotify, and so forth.
Word, man. Thank you for that. I think that's something, honestly, I haven't been doing. I'm going to start asking for them reviews, man. No, I appreciate it, Marques. So, man, I mean, despite all that you've gone through, man, and all the successes and failures, what would you say you learned a lot about yourself, man? Because I mean, hats off to you, man. I don't know if I was in your position, bro. I don't even know if I would still be alive because I probably would have been dead from stress, bro. So what did you learn from yourself and resiliency and just your character? Yeah.
I learned that I have the ability to adapt really well once I am all in. Like with speaking, once we start seeing success, got all in. Coaching, consulting, podcast, branded that. I mean, I just had a call, or I was just actually texting one of my clients for a job we're doing in June with her and her organization, great organization. And I was asking her about the budget for the 1-hour keynote. Plus, I was just to make this networking meeting, greet, stuff like that. I said, okay, well, Marques, minimum will be 15 to 20 grand, where I put in for a little bit more. So we might be able to pay you 25 to 30 grand for the hour. depending upon what we need you to do, and then a little bit of afterwards if you're okay with that. So I said, absolutely, we'll make it work. Fantastic. And my point is that through all that I've been through, hardships, negativity, self-doubt, divorce, bankruptcy, all that, I never, ever stopped betting on myself. Once I made the decision to go all in on myself. So like that, I think we've already got close to $100,000 of booked work for next year.
Wow.
And that doesn't include our mindset community, anything new. We're doing a lot in the insurance business, a lot in, hospitality, real estate, finance. But we're just absolutely getting so much traction in insurance.
Wow.
And we got a lot of great jobs. I'm going on a Caribbean cruise next year for a client, doing a job for them, which is exciting. I've got to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Greensboro, Georgia, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Bridgeport, Connecticut, Corona, California. We're just really rolling, man. With what have going on. So, but again, right, man, as I adapted, once I made the decision to adapt, that's when things kept going forward.
Wow, man, I just want to, you literally have like one of the greatest turnaround stories I've heard yet in this podcast, and it's very inspiring, man. I'm so grateful that I was able to speak to you. And my last question for you, Marques, is you went through your career, you experienced a lot of up and downs. You went through your NFL career, and that you had to retire from that. Then you went from having one of the biggest subcontracting companies for an African American, and then that went down. And now you're going through a lot of bookings, and you've been blessed with well-paying gigs. How can you maintain that so that this is actually like a thing that doesn't just end after a couple months or years?
You know what, man? I've been speaking for 11 and a half years.
Oh,
and that is wow. Remember, I started September 2013.
Yeah.
So the way that we have built this so it continues to go and grow is we allow our trusted team members to express themselves without fear of being judged. And I have an empathetic leader that connects with our team, our client base, and our prospective client base. And as a result of that, our business continues to grow. It gets bigger every year. We get more clients every year. We do different industries, our podcasts, you name it, it happens. So I'll tell your audience this. Remember the golden rule. Be curious, provide value, and then ask for that meeting. Be curious in how you approach people for business. When you know what they're looking for, add some preliminary value, then look to do work. And that's how we've gone from struggling, getting no pay jobs for several years to where we're at now. But again, we are 11 and a half years. We're 11 years old. September 2013, we started. So now we're 11 years and 2 months old. And that's how we continue to grow and expand through these times.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And so your story is a great testament to longevity and consistency. All right, man. And so, Marques, if anyone is interested in reaching out to you, learning more about your podcast and just you as a person, how can people do that?
All they got to do is go to our app. We have the Marques Ogden app, MarquesOgden. It's a free app, Apple or Android store. Type it in your app store. Boom, it pops right up. Follow us for exclusive free content. You can go to our podcast and connect. You can go to our website, all those things. So follow us there. Shoot me an email, marcus@marquesogden.com. Or again, if you want to sign up for our mindset community, innergameconnection.com. Check us out there.
Yeah. Hey, Marques, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you for your story. I was incredibly inspired by it. And I'm sure a lot of people will be so as well. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it. All right, man.